High-end composite hockey sticks have brought a huge advance to shooting performance in hockey. But if the blade gets cracked, the special tapered shafts mean that replacement blades can't be fitted. This video outlines a simple and effective method for repairing the blades without the need for expensive or specialized tools. The first step in the repair process is to glue the crack closed to recover the original shape of the blade. This doesn't need to be very strong, so I used a basic white wood glue for this step. Once the glue is dried, any protrusions are sanded flat and thin tape is put over the cracks. Wax is applied so that the blade can be easily removed from the mold later on. The molding process starts by hanging the sticks so that the blades are held just above the bottom of the tray that you'll be making the mold in. Plaster of Paris is mixed up and poured into the container until it rises just above the level of the cracks in the blades. When the plaster cures, the blades are removed from the mold. If the blade is thicker at the bottom than at the top, it may be necessary to crack the mold slightly to get it out. Note that holes have been pre-drilled to control the direction of the crack. Using jeweler's files or a Dremel type tool, remove material from the faces of the blade until the entire crack is gone. Dig out the foam core and make sure that the inside of the carbon faces of the blade are clean so that the epoxy can adhere strongly later on. If you have any other chips that you want to repair, get them ground out and drilled at this time too. Chop up some carbon tow in 1/4 inch lengths to make your fibrous filler material. Pack as much of this carbon as you can into the hollowed out blade, mix up some runny epoxy, and then flood the carbon with it. Push it from the outside using wax paper to shield your fingers. Wrap the entire blade in saran wrap to ensure that it will separate from the mold later on. Pry open the mold so you can easily slip the blade in. Push down on the top of the blade to make sure that it's fully seated in the mold. This blade had split from its internal bracing, so an extra clamp is in place to make sure that the blade gets compressed back to its original thickness. Once the epoxy cures, pry open the mold and slide out your blade. The wax you put on the blade earlier will make it easy to scrape off the excess resin with a flat razor. Knock down the high spots by carefully block sanding with 150 to 220 grit sandpaper. While the graft came out perfect, on this blade some of the carbon and resin was pushed up as it was inserted in the mold. The resulting void will be patched and reinforced from the outside. Resin is applied where the carbon is going to be put, then the carbon is applied and then more resin on top of it. The blade is then clamped between 2mm plastic sheets to retain the original shape of the shooting surface. This repair technique forces excess resin to the bottom surface where it needs to be filed away to restore the original rocker of the blade. After sanding, the finished blade will look like this. If you want to restore the original glossy look of the blade, brush on some thinned out epoxy over the entire surface. In this case, the blade needed to be used later the same day, so we skipped that step. The keys to success in this process are 1. Completely remove any damaged material. 2. Remove as much foam as you can from the damaged area and replace it with the carbon chop and epoxy mix. 3. Increase the bonding area for the epoxy by beveling the edges of any holes that you've made and drilling some little holes right through it to allow the epoxy to soak through both sides. 4. Always use a mold or some sort of form and apply pressure while the epoxy is curing. 5. Pack in as much carbon material as you can into your repair. And 6. Make sure that all of the carbon that you add is thoroughly wetted with epoxy.